Welcome to Live from HR's Basement. Right here, me here, I am the HR Captive Vehk, but I am no longer the captive. My co-host, HR Manager Phil, is unavailable. I have beaten him, and I have tied him up in a chair and distracted him with dirty images of women. So he is unavailable. The HR director, who acts as my editor and our censor, is currently ill and on bed rest. So I am taking over the channel. And I am going to use this opportunity to speak to you, my viewer, or even viewers if I'm lucky, about something near and dear to my heart, which is Vampire the Masquerade. Let me just move myself out the way. Yes, this is what I look like. Woo! So, Vampire the Masquerade, it is a social political tabletop role-playing game. If you ever wanted more roleplay and more talking from your D&D, this is it. But it inhabits the world known as the World of Darkness. It is a mature tabletop role-playing game. I do not say that's with any degree of contempt or snide. That is what it is on the tin. Deal with a lot of mature themes. Roughly more intense than what you would get in D&D due to that social political aspect that the game thrives on. This is going to simply be a clan tier list for Vampire the Masquerade. For some context, I act as a storyteller in certain chronicles, that being I act as a DM for a campaign. I have done 2 campaigns set in the modern era, 1 Camarilla and Anarch, 1 full Camarilla. I have done 2 Victorian era settings, and I am about to undertake a medieval era setting going into the modern era and then into vampire apocalypse times. I have not read everything. I have read all of the V5 books. I have opinions on those. I have read the original Clan Book magazines, and I have read some of the revised edition. Anything else, I have either done what most people do, and I'm either reading a Wikipedia, or I am watching videos or YouTube shorts. So, for some brief context for anyone who doesn't know, Vampire the Masquerade. Vampires spawn because Cain killed Abel. Yes, the father of murder himself from the Bible is the first vampire of this setting. Potentially. It depends on the setting and your own headcanon. He gets cursed either by God or by angels, or by God and by angels, and has to essentially live with the fact that he is immortal and with superpowers and has to only live in the dark. He ends up at a place called the First City. It is the first city of humanity. He rules there as a god king, and he creates a generation of vampires known as the Second Generation. They make the Third Generation. These are called the Antediluvians. They will act as our S tier for this tier list. Underneath the Antediluvians is their children, the Methuselah. These often operate either anywhere from the first city, since before the flood occurred, all the way up to after the flood, and I tend to give it a era of the early Dark Ages, roughly. I tend to like to put Methuselahs within that time frame. Beneath the Methuselahs, we have elders. These are all just children of children of children of children. The elders. Again, it goes anywhere from just after Christ died, about to the high medieval ages, if even the Victorian ages, if you want a little push. These are all denoted by their generations, not by when they are born, but, you know, swings and roundabouts for a tier list, eh? The Ancilla, I hope I have spelled their name right. I always spell this wrong if I don't look at it. I'm pretty sure I did. But anyway, the Ancilla, this tends to be the high echelon of power in the current V5 of Vampire the Masquerade due to certain in-universe shenanigans. And then neonates and fledglings at the bottom. Neonates are vampires that are not on a leash anymore. Fledglings are vampires that are on a leash. A neonate is roughly about where you start. A fledgling is if you need a few more training wheels before you go run off and get caught up in political machinations that either you start or that you get dragged into. So, for this tier list, we are only going to be talking about clan lore. There are other things I could talk about, but as I say, I have not read everything, but I believe I know most things about most of the clan lore. I'm also using Cliff Note version. I am not great enough or smart enough to try and go through everything in the time that I have. So I've just moved myself to the side and we will begin. So, first up, we have the Banu Hakim. The Banu Hakim are effectively vampires that live in the Middle East in a giant mountain that become assassins. They start off because they're antediluvian. The originator of their bloodline, Hakim, thought that vampires can't just run around amok anymore like they did in the first city, or whilst they were doing in the first city even. So he said, hey, here's the laws. If you break them, me and my kids are going to beat you and maybe even kill you. And that is effectively all of their law. Hakim is sleeping. The vampires stayed in the Middle East after the flood, after God drowned it because he was sick of all the vampires killing humanity. And that is effectively it. What else is there for them? They fight a bunch of, I guess, in between things, they fight a bunch of demonic, demon-worshipping vampires. And they have a penchant for liking to absolutely cannibalize the soul of their vampiric victims that they are sent to kill. But effectively, that's it. They become vampire assassins. They lose their way. They start worshipping Muhammad. And one of their Methuselahs, one of the direct children of their antediluvian Hakim, known as Ul Shulgi, I'm pretty sure is how it's pronounced, wakes up and goes, whoa, what do you mean you're all cursed? What do you mean that you follow this dude called Muhammad? He sounds so cool. Is he a vampire? What do you mean he's a mortal human and that he's dead? I don't like that. Subject yourself and follow the whim of Hakim and me. Otherwise, I'm going to kill you all. And then the clan breaks. They are now split in two. There are the Islamist version and the, hey, we worship a god. And we like it. And we get to drink blood. Vampire blood, specifically. And that's their law. So I am going to keep them solidly top of middle pack. I think they used to be quite landlocked. Used to be an issue. Less of a thing in V5. They've spread out due to their descent. They hang out either in any of the vampiric sects, whether that be the Camarilla, which is effectively the rich clubhouse that only some vampires are allowed into. You have to be born into it effectively in order to work in it. The Anarchs, how to describe the Anarchs? Vampires that believe in freedom and that they can do things that they want, but hey, we still need rules, guys. And then the Sabbat, which are just anything from a vampire terrorist all the way up to one of the most enlightened beings that you'll ever meet, because they are just so old. Anyway, moving on to the next clan, we have Clan Bruja. All right, Clan Bruja is a bit more fun. Well, actually, it's not. I'm telling a lie there. Much like a Bruja will tell you about anything to do with them. Again, they start off in the first city. They get an antediluvian called Bruja, and then depending on the edition that you are working within, they either stick with their antediluvian Bruja, or their antediluvian gets their soul cannibalized by his offspring called Troila or Troili. I forget how to pronounce her name. It does begin with a T. It's Troil, and then I forget how to pronounce it afterwards, because I think it's either A or AH. Anyway. And then the only other thing that they do after that is that they build the city of Carthage. Yes, that Carthage that Rome went to war against, and Hannibal drove his elephants over the hill of. They get their shit kicked in by Rome, much like in real life, and then they do nothing of note for the rest of time. The only other thing that I think that I could attribute to Clan Bruja is the fact that in a meeting of all important vampire clans in Prague, the Conclave of Prague, I'm pretty sure it's called, one of the oldest, or one of the strongest even, Bruja, puts a shotgun into the mouth of another vampire who is the head of the sect of the Camarilla at the time, Hardstadt the Younger, I'm going to say, and essentially blows his head off with incendiary rounds. But that's really all they've got to them. All that they'll ever say is, hey, we made Carthage, it worked, and other clans came in, Rome came in, and they beat us up. So they're just always angry. So they're going straight into the neonate section. Right. Cater for fun. They're not a clan. Fledgling. Gangrel. Gangrel are awesome to play. They are. However, this is a clan lore tier list. So here's their lore. Their clan progenitor, I can never pronounce her name. She is a woman. She is a hunter. She was the daughter of Adam, the first man, and Lilith from Jewish scripture, who was Adam's first wife, not made of his rib, and his equal. He either assaulted her or did something with her consensually, but Lilith ended up not liking it. She leaves the garden. She gives birth to what is essentially the gangrel Methuselah and abandons her to wolves. The Methuselah not even the Methuselah, the antediluvian. What am I on about? Anyway, the antediluvian grows up with a pack of wolves. She does what people in Team Jacob wish that Bella had done from Twilight, and she mates with a bunch of them. She cops out a few kids that are wolves. I believe I believe it's in the original clan book, or either in the revised clan book, that these are where the werewolves of the World of Darkness appear from, but that is in a vampire book that is written as in an in-universe piece of canon that only that person is writing about. So doesn't hold much weight. But either way, bestiality is on the menu with this clan. After that, the antediluvian makes her way to the first city. She gets turned. She may or may not have become a lover of Cain, which would effectively be her half-brother. Jesus. And that's it. So, and from all this, Gangrel just really love being outdoors. The clan effectively then has nothing of note going for them beyond Beckett, who is a very well-established and well-loved Vampire the Masquerade character who is a lore chronicler of all sorts of crazy shit to do with history that loads of vampires have forgotten, and all about either the Methuselahs or the antediluvians. Beckett's Jihad Diary is what it's called. It's quite a fun read, I am told. But that's all that the Gangrel get. It's not a lot, and it's only got one real piece of lore, which is around how the Methuselah comes to be. So I'm going to put them down in Neonate for their lore. They are a top tier clan to play, but in terms of their lore, it's just bestiality, and that is it. Clan Hakata is fun to talk about. I'm going to say that about a lot of these, but there are going to be some that aren't exactly fun. Clan Hakata is a series of bloodlines, which is different to a clan. It's literally just based on numbers and the fact that you're not the main branch. So I'm going to talk about the main two, which is Clan Cappadocius and Clan Giovanni. Clan Cappadocius are a bunch of necromancers who were deeply religious. Their antediluvian, Cappadocian, he was, to a degree, already a necromancer when he got found out as being really cool and a necromancer. And when he was turned by the one of the free second generation, he had so many spirits hanging around him that they basically threw themselves into his soul to try and save him. It didn't work, and he came out a bit weird. Came out as a goth kid, essentially. And effectively, from that point, Cappadocius decided to spend all of his time trying to figure out what it means to die and what comes after death. That means a lot for a vampire because they are basically undead, and he considers it a transition state. His clan basically spread to the four winds. They all go try and figure out all different things about what it means to be dead or to die, what comes afterwards, pontificating on anything and anything to do with it. They become deeply religious along the way and really incredible necromancers. And then at some point, the entire clan is recalled by Cappadocius. I believe it's somewhere in either Greece or towards the Middle East. And he looks at them all and he tells all the ones that he thinks are unworthy to go in a cave, and he seals it. This greatly reduces their numbers but leaves the clan pure. This clan, that is now diminished, continues to just do what it's been doing for the last couple of, millennia, up until about the medieval time, where a family of merchants called the Giovanni, who are a bit incestuous and a bit into necromancy, decide that they should become vampires because they are rich and powerful. So they headhunt a bunch of vampires and a bunch of clans through those vampires, and most of the clans go, no, not on your life. You are clearly power hungry. And then from there, they seduce the clan Cappadocian and the Methuselah itself, and they begin the long game of slowly gaining power up until the point that they can cannibalize him. This is done either successfully or unsuccessfully, and then the Cappadocians cease to be a clan as they are systematically hunted down by the Giovanni. The Giovanni at that point then have the ultimate goal of essentially tearing down reality so that they can go and let the afterlife spill through and discover all of its secrets. Long story short, due to some other circumstances that we'll get into later, that blows up in their face, and the clan is now hunted by angry ghosts that were getting enslaved over 1,000 years. At that point, the Giovanni, who have a agreement with the Camarilla, that is a non-aggression pact. Hey, we don't hit you, you don't hit us, but hey, we're allowed to do covert shit, we'll just all deny it. That agreement's coming to an end, and they realize that, hey, we kind of need something to stand against or this giant organization that's going to come down on our heads if we're not careful, and they're going to divvy up everything that we've ever built within a matter of years. So they recall all a bunch of different clans that have a moniker of the Clan of Death, this including Clan Cappadocius. And they all take part in something called the Family Gathering, where they all unite into one bloodline and basically become Clan Hecata. And that is the cliff notes of that clan. Methuselah is where I'm going to put them. I don't think they quite make it to Antediluvian. In terms of a play, they're really brilliant to play. It's more than just playing necromancers. There's a whole stereotypical Italian American family dynamic behind everything. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to put it up to Antediluvian because they are a family, but they do hate each other, and they have not forgiven each other of all of their sins. So you can feasibly find that parts of the clan are actively also killing themselves effectively, just because, hey, you're a Giovanni and you're all by yourself. I'm going to kill you now. Wah! I'm going to put them up in Antediluvian. All right. Clan La Sombra. I call this the clan that was forgotten by time. Clan La Sombra are shadowmancers. They have a very unique thing. They control shadows. They have a Antediluvian whose name they do not know, and who never divulged their name, but effectively they're called Clan Lasombra. There is a reason for that escapes me at time of recording. And effectively, what happens with them? They go through the whole thing again. They go through the whole of the deluge. They escape the flood. They hit up the second city. Second city falls apart. They go out to the wind, and then they end up in the Mediterranean and build this thing called the Empire of Shadow. I'm pretty sure it is, or the Shadowed Sea, something like that. This clan really loves the ocean. They've got real Lovecraft vibes when it comes to their love of the deep, dark ocean and the shadows. However, beyond that and what I'm about to mention, they haven't got much more. At one point in time, the Lasombra were fighting basically everyone, and they needed mortals as cannon fodder. So they effectively sponsor and create the Inquisition, yes, the Spanish Inquisition, in order to take on their rivals. This backfires because, you know, a bunch of angry religious zealots found out that demons, as far as they're concerned, exist. They jump into... So the Inquisition then starts attacking the Lasombra. They attack all over Eastern Europe. They basically do what the Inquisition did. They turn up, they kill things. They're a bit more organized in this universe, so they actually do manage to kill a lot of really old and powerful vampires. The Lasombra initially were using this to fight their enemies and also their elders, because, you know, younger vampires didn't like that older vampires also used them as cannon fodder. Through this civil war that was not very well organized, known as the Anarch Revolt, Lasombra, the Antediluvian, gets cannibalized as well. Some of the Lasombra clan didn't like that, so they went and joined the Camarilla when that gets established, but most of them end up in the terrorist Sabbat sect and basically get brainwashed into being #1 fans of the Sabbat, and they become the political rulers of this sect. Not many end up in the Camarilla, I believe. A good chunk do end up in it, but not a majority. Then they become known as the rebel ones. An antribu is the in-universe word. It just means the vampires that don't act within how the clan's meant to act. Like if you met a calm gangrel, that'd be an antribu. But yeah, once they do the Anarch Revolt and succeed in what they wanted to do, and then form the Sabbat in response to the Camarilla and all of the elders binding together, that's where their lore ends, basically, until about Chicago by Night in V5, where the head, technically Lasombra of the Sabbat, says, I'm bored, I'm gonna go join the Camarilla, kills everyone, and declares himself a prince, which is the head of a city or region within the Camarilla. It sends shockwaves because he also divulges like really old Sabbat secrets to the Camarilla. And it basically paves the way for you to play Lasombra in any way that you want in terms of sect, but that's not to do with their lore. It just basically gets them into the Camarilla. Some of them were already within the Anarch movement. This is completely different to the original Anarch movement. The Anarch sect for VtM is, like I say, it's just vampires who are like, we think that we should be allowed to govern ourselves, but we do believe that there should be some rules, and we do have these things called barons, which are either, you know, a community leader or basically a prince. So anyway, the reason I call them the clan left behind is because beyond, once they get to the Sabbat, they do nothing. And in terms of their clan books, the archetypes within them don't really fit into anything. You can be a punk rocker, you can be a priest, you can be a priest who doesn't believe in God, you can be a bouncer, you can be a nightclub manager. All the archetypes tend to try and do something within a niche for the clan, but the Lasombra are just everywhere and all over the spot. So I'm going to do the controversial thing, and I'm going to put them in fledgling. They're an advanced clan. They haven't got much lore beyond what I mentioned, and it's not a lot. Malkavians. These are the most mentally ill, mentally unstable vampires you will ever meet. Their lore is they had an antediluvian called Malkav. Malkav got wrecked. He died, and when he died, he shattered his psyche into a million pieces and drove all of his clan insane. That's it. They join the Camarilla, but that's it. They're crazy, they're jesters, they're fun to play if you are able to accurately play. But again, this is all about clan lore, so they're not going to go behind Caitiff because they are a clan, and Caitiff are not, but they are not going higher than the Lasombra, who actually do have something. It's just not as much as the others. Right. The Ministry. Originally known as the Followers of Set, these are vampires that used to exclusively be in Egypt. They claim that they are born of the god Set, Gerard Butler's character from Gods of Egypt, if that helps anybody. They really love snakes, which is ironic because Set is not a snake. Effectively, that is their lore. They claim that they are. They claim that that they have divine heritage. They hang out in Egypt. They were a landlocked clan. If you wanted to play one, you had to play Cairo by night, or you had to get really inventive in why your follower of Set was not in Egypt. They take part in the Barley War, but they don't really, as far as I'm concerned, do much. Everyone just hates demons, is effectively the Barley War, and the Barley are vampires who worship demons, so everyone hates them. Set took part in it, supposedly, but then again, apparently so did El Shorgi, and he's not exactly the most stable of beings. Their V5 lore... Their V5 lore is that the world was changing. They went for a rebrand. They called themselves the Ministry. They updated their logo to be this one instead of a picture of Set. And they tried to join the Camarilla because everyone does. I've watched Matthew Dawkins' video on this, The Gentleman Storyteller. He has a good story about it where he had to put a pitch together against some other people because loads of people at the same time that the new Ministry, the Followers of Set, wanted into the Camarilla, so did the Banu Hakim, and so did the Lasombra. So the story is that the Followers of Set that were now going by the Ministry wanted into the Camarilla. They set up a meeting in a really affluent hotel. They met with a bunch of very senior secret Camarilla members, and the building blew up. Boom, it went up. So they said, wow, we really can't let you guys in because you just bombed the building you were in. And that was their reputation at the time. And they said, whoa, not us, guys, really not us. I believe at some point I read that the Toreador did it, because they didn't want their power base threatened. So they weren't allowed in. The Banu Hakim instead were allowed in. The Lasombra were already working on their own way in. And so the Ministry fucked off, and they went and became part of the Anarch movement. Their role now as the Ministry is to be both a bureaucrat and a minister, which is that as a priest. That's the idea behind the decision, at least, which is fine considering that the early editions of their clan lore was that, number one, they just wanted you to become a monster, which was hilarious because you were a vampire, you were already monstrous. They just wanted you more monstrous, and then that got changed to be, instead of turning you into a monster, let's just have you sin. Let's do sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and do it until you're injecting heroin under your tongue and underneath your eyelids. Then they became priests, so it's a full come to God moment. All this in mind, I'm going to put them still in the Ancilla, but ahead of the Banu Hakim. They've got a lot for it, but then being landlocked in earlier editions with not much really did suffer. Right, the next clan is Clan Nosferatu. Clan Nosferatu has some really fucking brilliant lore. Their antediluvian is called Absamiliard. He was hot. He was sexy. He was the hottest man to ever grace the earth. He wasn't the sexiest person on the planet at the time that he was around. He was the second hottest, maybe even third, depending on where you sit with the Toreador. Long story short, when we get to the second city again, the flood comes, he survives, Cain goes away, second city's built. He then kills his sire, who was the hottest thing on the planet and Cain's wife. In righteous anger, Cain apparently comes back out of hiding and says, "You killed my wife. I'm so livid that I actually can't express how mad I am. So let your soul rest on your flesh," effectively. And then the Nosferatu become really, really, really fucking ugly. So ugly and so monstrous and deformed that humans can die of a heart attack if you see them. From there, they are banished from kindred society by and large. So, like the Clan Hakata, but way earlier, they become a very family-orientated clan. They stick together, and basically, all throughout all the ages, they were there, learning secrets on either the vampires, the politics of a nation, or even like deep dark secrets around vampiric history that were still being lost even at the time. So all throughout, from the second city into Rome, into Constantinople, into every single empire that you can feasibly imagine, there is a Nosferatu there. There is a clan there that's backing them up, and they are just constantly gathering information. They also have a really sick Methuselah who's used in the LA by Night podcast. And he is actually a figure, this is actual lore, where he digs ley lines or uses ley lines to dig these pocket dimension tunnels through the world. And it's called the Labyrinth, and it's effectively what it is. It's a giant labyrinth that spans the globe, and if you know where to look for them, you've got secret passages all throughout the planet. And all into the modern days, they become, well, what they always were: information brokers. They are the spine and the information network of vampiric society. They made a version of the internet in the 90s for vampires called ShrekNet, and this hilariously being found out by some of the free letter agencies. It sets off what's known as the Second Inquisition. So yeah, and I'll tell you now, people can't leave the fact that they made vampire internet a thing. So they keep so I've seen a few different chronicles on YouTube also try and have them not learn from their mistakes and go again and try and make ShrekNet 2.0. But yeah, that's Clan Nosferatu. In their clan book, it covers all of this. It says as much and even adds a bit more in... I haven't read their revised one. I've only read their initial clan book. But even in their clan book, you can... it's, again, not lore, so it won't factor in. But in their clan book, you get to decide on your deformities based on a point accrual. But based on their lore, I'm putting them, again... I'm going to sucker myself. I'm putting the Hakata back into Methuselah, and I'm putting the Nosferatu up in the Antediluvian. All right then. So we have Clan Ravnos next. This one will be very quick. Clan Ravnos. Their initial clan book is like, oh, we had a antediluvian called Ravnos. He was a bit of a cheeky lad. He was a bit of a cheeky boy. He liked to steal. He liked to lie. And he made loads of us, even though he wasn't allowed to. And then we got kicked out of the first city. And then we became the Travelers. We became the Romani. We became the Gypsies. We steal. We have a community. And basically, just imagine every single worst part that you could ever think about gypsy culture in the 90s and slam it into a book. That was their clan book. It was a different time, is what people like to say, I believe. Their revised clan book gets a bit more fun. The antediluvian is a being that is made by angels. And he's thrown at India to kill all the vampires. He kind of succeeds, he kind of fails. He's still a vampire for some reason. Don't know why an angel made a vampire as their divine warrior of retribution, but they did. And it's to tie into the Romani history of that they came out of India, not Egypt, I believe, is the official oral tradition history. But anyway, basically, they're still not liked. They're still daredevils. They're still thieves. They're still not well liked, shall we say. So they're even less liked than the Nosferatu and the Malkavians and the Gangrel, if such a thing can even be considered. And they basically have no law beyond that. And they don't even know their own law. Some people say that they do. It's up to you. But in terms of their clan law, they say they know things, but they could be lying because their clan book, they outright say, we lie about everything. They then don't really get much because, well, they don't really partake in the law. And again, they're a bit landlocked and they weren't really involved in anything because they don't join a sect. They stay independent and just roam left and right and up and down sometimes. Then the Week of Nightmares happens, which either took a week or way longer, but effectively the antediluvian rose up. He let out one hell of a call, much like what Cappadocius did for Clan Cappadocia. Apologies. And then all the Ravnos effectively get the bat signal telling them to come to India. He being the antediluvian, I am not going to try and pronounce his name, I've never been able to, devours a great swath of the clan and reduces them down to a bloodline, which means that there's not a lot of them. And then the antediluvian, still not sated on all of the literal ocean of blood that he's drunk, decides to go on a rampage all the way to Bangladesh. All the way across India into Bangladesh. The Technocracy, which is a bunch of mages who really believe in technology, find out about this and they decide to act. The Kuei Jin, who are, let's say, Southeastern Asian vampires with no direct lineage to Cain, they have their own origin story, find out about this and they also go to war. Some of the strongest Kuei Jin battle the antediluvian using storm magic, physical prowess, their own other types of magic. Nothing works. The Technocracy are mages in this universe. Then fire the sun through a satellite and try and nuke him while also using 4 other nukes. This doesn't work on the antediluvian. It only leaves him wounded, severely wounded, but you know, he took 4 nukes and the direct sun through a laser beam. It stops him, it wounds him long enough for the actual sun to rise, and then he's ashed. However, the thing with this is that Clan Ravnos are not they still hear the whispers. So the antediluvian may or may not be dead because they have a very specific skill unto them, like how how Hakata are necromancers and how the Sombra are shadowmancers. These guys can create illusions that, if they become old enough and gain enough power, that they can just rewrite reality or make an illusion so good that that you think that you have experienced a certain thing. It's basically the Mangekyu Sharingan Genjutsu powers if you're not careful. All this in mind, we're going to put them at the back end of Ancilla. The clan Salubri. It is now a clan, according to V5 companion lore, so I am going to treat it as such. Clan Salubri they were primarily a clan of healers with an antediluvian called Sorlot. Sorlot was the best guy ever. He was the nicest vampire that you would ever meet, and that's saying something because he really was, apparently, according to their lore. They were healers, and Sorlot left the second city to go wander all of Asia, all around the world, and effectively went to Asia. Happens a lot, believe it or not, in this universe that really old vampires go to Asia. Because it's next door from the Garden of Eden, I guess. Anyway, while over there, he does something that really upsets the Kuei-jin. I believe the conspiracy that he is the reason that the Bali exist. And that they are descendants of his bloodline, which is ironic considering he's the one who's meant to be the vampiric redemption Jesus Christ figure. So of course he naturally spawns the vampire demon worshippers. I'm gonna cough again if I'm not careful. anyway he comes back from Asia and his mysteries over there with a third eye firmly planted in the middle of his forehead. And he preaches a path of enlightenment called Golconda. Golconda is God's mercy on vampires given to Cain by the Archangel Gabriel that says if you follow this path, you can become either human again or as near to human and basically go out in the sunlight, feel love, your heart will beat. You're still probably immortal, but, you know, you can eat, sleep, and shit instead of just being in an undead state. What happens is that Sorla, once he preaches this path to his healer caste, goes into torpor. So he goes into a very, 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 very long sleep coma thing. Just before he does this, he makes a warrior caste. And this cast even, the warrior caste, they all have angel names. And they go off and fight demons all around the world. And they basically become the in-universe version of paladins. Some even join up with the Crusades to fight paganism. They do really well at parts and even contend with an antediluvian and believe that they kill it. They don't, but they thought they did. And then there's a final cast, which is the one that Sarlat left in Asia, called the Watcher cast. Now, I'm going to have to give away some things in order to give them an accurate ranking, but effectively another vampire clan comes to power in the medieval ages. We'll get to them. They're my favorite clan and they're the one that I can accurately play the best, which was not my choice. I just happen to be really good at it for some reason. They get propagandized. They get called soul drinkers and demon worshippers and cannibals, soul cannibals, because they do diablerie. Even though the Banu Hakim are well known for doing it, they don't get tarnished with that brush with the vitriol that the Salubri did. Well, not as heavily, I guess. Anyway, and the clan effectively gets wiped out. Now, the way that this has been revised is that the Watchers are still in Asia, that the Healers get reduced down to seven clan members, each one based in the Healer caste system. When they learn Golconda and they achieve enlightenment, they let their disciple eat their soul so that they can then go on and unlock more mysteries around Golconda. And they just carry all of this knowledge through. The warrior caste has been re-implemented in order to make them a clan as far as I'm concerned, and that's how I read it. And they basically joined the Sabbat to try and kill the clan that basically supplanted them in vampiric society. All this in mind, I'm going to keep them in the elder position. Clan Toreador, these guys here. The Clan of the Rose, the Harlots, the Whores, the Painters. So, Cain's wife was the hottest thing known to man. She made 2 vampires. She made the really hot Absimiliard, the antediluvian of the Nosferatu. She also made a really hot chick. Can't remember her name for the life of me. But she's the second hottest thing on the planet. And what happens is that they basically are the vampires that love humanity the most, because they are tied. They don't have much lore. Is the thing. They don't have much lore beyond the fact that they exist. All of their lore is tied up in a concept of they love humanity and their intrinsic humanity, the last vestiges of being a human, so much that they become obsessive over it. And as such, they fall in love with primary things of humanity's psyche, that being art and everything to do with art. So whether it's painting, sculptures, playing a musical instrument, finding love, being obsessed with somebody, celebrities, lovers, BDSM for some reason, at certain points, they become the focal point of what it means to be human within a vampiric society. And they also inhabit, therefore, all the worst traits that come with humanity. Their clan book has a vampire in it that keeps... This vampire essentially really loves to be worshipped, and the only way that they could, at that point in their ancient life, think to keep being adored was to blood bond and basically turn mortals into their willing crack fiend slaves to just constantly lap adulation upon this vampire. But they were so busy constantly fighting for this vampire's attention that they would do monstrous things to each other, the least of which would be grape. And I think that's quite a unique thing for this clan, that they, whilst having no law, they're intrinsically tied into this, and all the clans know it. Whether they want to fully acknowledge it or not is on other clans. In the clan books, there's also how other clans feel about other clans, and the Toreador look down on everyone else for reasons that are basically these vampires don't care about their humanity, and everyone looks at these guys as really posh snobs who are obsessed with artistic things and a bit of power, but not really. They're happy being fashion designers, and well, they are called the Clan of Whores for a reason. And that does accidentally pigeonhole them sometimes in the same way that the bard gets pigeonholed into being horny bastards. But with this in mind, I'm going to put them in Elder just because their concept is so unique. Their lore is low, but what they offer to the vampiric society by existence in their lore is so utterly unique. And you know what? Top of Elder, I'm going to put them. Someone might not agree with this, but as I say, I haven't read everything and I'm very opinionated. Right. Clan Tremere. Okay, Clan Tremere are mages, full-on wizards with fireballs and world-shattering, world-bending powers, whose potions of immortality were either running out or they were trying to find one because magic in the medieval era was subject to something called consensus. So consensus being the universe works this way because the majority of people on planet Earth believe it works this way. The internet, technically, in World of Darkness lore, I believe, is magic because the technocracy, again, mages who believe in technology, have just convinced everyone that the internet can exist and therefore it does exist, but it's completely magic. If we all stop believing in the internet, that it works, that it would just disappear. So, what did Clan Tremere do? So, starting off as House Tremere, they were like, hey, yo, we want immortality because we don't want to die and magic is changing and we can't fight two fronts. So they kidnap a bunch of vampires from Clan Zimitri, who we'll get to later. Again, all of these clans kind of get interlinked in this story. The Salubri and the Zimitri get tied into this clan, so they're going to go very high, let me tell you. They kidnap a bunch of really old Zimitri. They use their blood to do the ritual of profaned ascension. I'm going to call it, might just be the ritual of ascension. And effectively, they go from mortal mages with godlike powers to really low level powered vampires who have pissed off one of the strongest vampire clans and one of the most dangerous ones. Actually, the most dangerous one, I'm going to say it. So to combat this, Clan Tremere go, whoa, we've made a lot of enemies really quickly. Let's figure out how magic works again. So because they turned into vampires, they lost all of their magical abilities. So they figured out this thing called thaumaturgy, known as blood sorcery. Well, it gets revised down into being called blood sorcery in V5, but that's a different matter. So anyway, they invent thaumaturgy. They use blood to do magic. Once they get that working, and they get it working pretty quickly, let me tell you, they still realize that they will not be considered anything in vampiric society because they'll just be seen as upstarts with no lineage back to Cain, and if they're not careful, they will get wiped out because all the other clans will realize some fuckers have overstepped. So whilst fighting off Clan Zimitri, they then go and try and find an antediluvian to diablerize. They eventually find the antediluvian of the Salubri clan, Sorlot. And Tremere, the head of House Tremere, now soon to be called Clan Tremere, eats the soul of Sorlot and goes into a coma, also known as torpor, again. Goes into a magical coma for vampires. Like instantly, he doesn't get any last words out. He finds him, he drains him, he drinks his soul, and then he goes, okay, time for nap. But he's very powerful now. From there, the rest of the clans start hunting, the rest of now Clan Tremere start hunting down and diablerizing soul cannibalism the elders of Clan Salubri. So the original, I'm going to say 7 mages of House Tremere then become the it is 7. They then become the Council of 7, really powerful Methuselah power level vampires. And then they put the Zimitri in their place by basically crafting a whole new bloodline using blood sorcery and secrets of the Zimitri, known as vicissitude. We'll get to it in Clan Zimitri, don't worry. and they create the gargoyles. And if you're wondering what a gargoyle is, just imagine a gargoyle, but about 7 foot tall. They make 3 versions of them: the scouts, the warriors, and the observers, the spies. And they basically kick the Tzimisce shit all the way back to Eastern Europe. So at this point, Clan Tremere, having a bit of reprieve, go, okay, we've kicked one vampire clan's ass, but if they all band together, they could all kick our ass still, even with our cool powers. So they go out and they make more vampires out of the Council of Seven make more vampires out of their acolytes, and then they spread forth into the world, and they basically saddle up to all the other clans that they can, bearing in mind they've pissed off Clan Salubri, Clan Gangrel, Clan Nosferatu, and Clan Tzimisce down here. This one. Woo. By basically using them to turn into gargoyles and killing an entire clan off. And they approach all the other clans and basically go, hey, we have magic. Would you like some? We're only going to ask for a small favor, which is actually a big favor, but you're going to want what we have anyway. And because the vampires had not seen blood magic of this level, you know, the Bali have dark thaumaturgy, the Banu Hakim have blood sorcery to a degree as well. But they haven't seen it this uniform and this effectively utilized in such a way that all the clans basically start taking loads of deals off the Tremere and owing loads of favors. So because of this, the Tremere eventually managed to bargain their way into a position of power and become one of the main pillars of the Camarilla. And then from there, they just basically go on. Their lore gets, if anything, it gets better as it goes on. They come up with loads of paths for different ways to use blood magic. Hey, do you want to wield the power of Zeus and Thor? Here's lightning. Use blood magic. Hey, do you want to control like computers but not be anywhere near them and basically be Bluetooth and remote screening? Here, use blood sorcery. Hey, do you want to turn this H2O back into H and O? Oh, here you go. Blood sorcery. Hey, do you want to be poison ivy? Blood sorcery. Hey, do you want to do XYZ? Blood sorcery. Just blood sorcery. Do you want to do necromancy? Blood sorcery. Do you want to do what the Tremere do? Blood sorcery. Do you want to do anything that any of the other clans do? Blood sorcery. You can just do it. Because they were so awesome and so cool, they get nuked by the Second Inquisition in V5. So Tremere, the head of it, not the clan, basically took a page out of Dune, turned into a giant worm after he ate Sorlot, and begun a battle at the wills, Scott Pilgrim style, with Sorlot for rights over his body. Tremere loses and then goes and steals the body of his apprentice, rival, and lover, Goratrix, who'd already left the Council of Seven to join the Sabbat as House Goratrix. Sorlot runs off with Tremere's body. Tremere's run off with Goratrix's body. And effectively, the Council of Seven at their chantry in Vienna gets nuked, flat out nuked, by the Second Inquisition because they thought that it was the head of the vampire world. That's how powerful the Tremere were and how centralized that their power structure was. The power structure is known as the pyramid, and it's effectively a pyramid scheme, ironically. You got the Council of Seven at the top, you got all the other people underneath them, and if you recruit 5 people into this pyramid scheme, then you will be able to get your tax break on these 5 people who will give you money, and then when they get their 5, they can then move up too. And that is effectively how the pyramid works. It is a pyramid scheme. Anyway, because it gets nuked, the pyramid shatters. All the blood bonds that kept all of Clan Tremere in place go up in smoke, and the clan goes to the wind. It gets split between 3 main houses: Clan Tremere, who are basically traditionalists; Clan Goratrix, who act as independents. The original Clan Goratrix got killed off by Tremere, who was inhabiting Goratrix in a massive blood ritual sacrifice in order to get control of the body. And then Clan Kana, who are loosely Anarch aligned, but effectively they all pay lip service to the Camarilla now. They're all just out for themselves. And that's where they end. They're going to go in Antediluvian. I am biased. They are they are not my favorite clan, but they are the one that I can play the most, and they constantly have shit going on. They are responsible for like 2 signs of the vampire apocalypse. The Giovanni also have only 1, you know, but these guys have 2. That's how bad they are. They make... I'm going to put them in the front of Antediluvian. I'm going to be honest. They are just such trouble. They are such rambunctious scamps. And everyone hates them, but everyone needs them. So that's where they're going. Top of Antediluvian. Now, they might get dethroned by the clan of Retcon. I mean, Clan Tzimisce. The only thing more confusing about this clan is how you pronounce its words. There's Tzimisce, Tzimisce, Tzimisce. There's all sorts. World of Darkness has been, and Vampire the Masquerade has been arguing how to pronounce this clan's name since the clan book. Right. This clan has probably some of the best lore and some of the most retcon lore that you're ever going to come across. Clan Tzimisce starts off with their antediluvian, known as the Eldest, being a mage. A bona fide wizard, shaman thing. He gets turned by the second generation, and because he was turned as a wizard, he gets this awesome power called Vicissitude, which is basically, you get to mold things as if they're made of clay. So the Circe scene from the Odyssey that everyone's been talking about to date this video, imagine being able to do that minus the plants. You can just turn someone into a pig. You could turn them into a sculpture. You could, turn all of Eastern Europe into a giant cathedral of flesh. Who knew? Anyway, what happens is that they have this power and they become very aware of themselves and they wonder what it means to exist and to be part of the world. And I don't mean that in a, where do we sit in the world? They mean physically be made up of atoms that exist within the world. And they want to transcend past what it means to be a vampire and basically become a god, is what the later rendition says. But he leaves the first city even before technically before the Ravnos and before the flood even arrives. And he goes over to Eastern Europe and he meets a bunch of werewolves called the Garou. Along his way from the first city and all the way up through Asia and up through Asia, starts in Africa, comes into Asia, up through Greece, all the way over into Eastern Europe is basically how he worked it. He makes children along the way, and as I say, he gets to Eastern Europe because something goes, ooh, you're powerful, you had magic, come over here. He gets there and he finds a earthbound, which is a demon chained into the earth. It's the same thing as a demon in hell, except it's stuck on earth because it's just that vile. It's called Kupala and it says, hey, can you kick these werewolves' asses for me? So Tzimisce and his children, after a very long war, wreck the shit out of some werewolves. The Garou in that area, they're called the Garou, I believe, in Wider World of Darkness werewolves. I only really know Vampire the Masquerade lore. I don't know anything about Werewolf the Apocalypse. I don't know anything about Demon the Fallen, Wraith the Changing or something, Wraith the Oblivion. Don't know anything about the Changelings. I basically, in my spare time, watch some videos from a great YouTuber called The Old Country, who goes over how to play all of the different World of Darkness games. He's very good. So, after wrecking the shit out of some werewolves, the Eldest, the antediluvian for the Tzimisce, he goes and meets the earthbound demon Kupala. He's already got the powers of vicissitude. What else could he use? How about shamanism? World of Warcraft level shamanism. How about using your blood magic, you can call upon the power of the elements and the spirits. Well, nature spirits specifically, not the spirits as in necromancy. So he says sure, and then he gets betrayed by Kupala because he wasn't cursed by Cain, because he didn't kill any of his sires. Instead, he gets tricked by Kupala, and that's where the Tzimisce and the old school Eastern Europe thing of you need to take the soil of your homeland with you where you go places comes from. This slightly changes in the revised edition, I believe. I only read it recently, but I believe it says that that the eldest was born because one of the second generation wanted to expel all of his evils, so he expelled it all into a child and was ready to kill the child because it was the most evil thing that could ever exist on the planet, bearing in mind Cain exists, as does Satan, in the form of Lucifer. And instead of acting like a murderous, rampaging dog like he expected, the second generation vampire that made him goes, oh, you're actually, like, not that monstrous. Okay, you can live. And then he becomes the biggest monster known to existence. But that's the change in their law. Everything else still follows. They go to Eastern Europe, they find werewolves, they kick werewolf ass, Kupala betrays them. From there, not much happens for the Tzimisce. The flood comes, and the humans who had already left the first city that are in the region offer up themselves and their children to slavery to the Tzimisce in order to not drown. The Tzimisce then, over centuries, create a version of ghouls called revenants. So here's a quick side tangent. A ghoul is a mortal that has fed vampire blood and becomes their willing slave because they are addicted to the blood. So they'll do anything to say yes to anything if it means they get that sweet, sweet hit. A revenant is, if enough ghouls shag, it will, with vampire blood in their system, they will eventually just birth ghouls with special powers. And the Tzimisce make families of these things, multiple families of these things. And they accredit themselves with the idea of creating blood bonds because of this. Not true, if you believe the story of Cain and the crone, but they say that they did it first, and we have to go on this and I'm counting this retcon or addition into their things, because I've included all the retcons in these, ironically. Anyway, so the flood disappears, they've created revenants, and they basically just hang out in Eastern Europe as god kings. Petty god kings that fight each other, but nobody really comes near them. Then the Roman Empire comes, and the Mongols come, and the vampires start thinking they can own the town. So the Tzimisce kick their ass out of Eastern Europe by uniting as a united front. In the clan book, they reference that they made the Hecatoncres when they got a bit hissy with the Hellenic vampires. You know, the 100-armed giants with 100 heads. Yeah, they made those because they didn't like vampires that were in Greece. So yeah, they kicked the asses of all the vampires that try and establish a foothold. They let the gangrel through because they're lowly dogs that are just going to go piss on our trees and then leave the territory. After that, it's effectively really quiet for them on their end up until the Tremere enter the scene, and then we get that whole thing. Tremere starts kidnapping, well, House Tremere, specifically Gortrick, starts kidnapping vampires of Clan Tzimisce. Clan Tzimisce say, how dare you? They launch all-out war. Clan Tzimisce figure out how to use blood magic. They kick the Tzimisce ass. The Tzimisce go back to Eastern Europe thinking about how they're always going to get one on the Tremere for the rest of time. Then the Anarch Revolt happens. Because Clan La Sombra failed to, again, do anything useful, they lose control, and the Crusades come to Eastern Europe. The peasantry revolts, and they drag really old, really powerful Tzimisce elders out into the daylight. The Crusaders tear down the hill fortifications and the castles. And then the eldest still proving that they're the most dangerous thing on planet Earth, kicks ass without anyone even realizing he's kicked their ass. A Zemitzi Methuselah is who was it? Is a Zemitzi elder is trying to drink the blood of, I think it's Yorak. I think it's Yorak. He's trying to drink all the blood of the eldest. The eldest instantly sensing danger, kills his would-be killer, and then just assumes his face and goes, "Oh my god, I have totally killed the eldest. Everyone worship me. I will lead the clan. But first, I must go into torpor, for the blood is heavy, and I must sleep." So that's the Anarch Revolt from the side of the Tremere. Not the Tremere, from the side of the Zemitzi. Same thing happens, but the Methuselah doesn't get his shit wrecked. Clan Zemitzi continues to operate as they do, as secular individual vampires that can't unite unless the sum total of their existence is threatened. However, as the world moves on and they do not, they start losing power. There's a whole bunch of other things I forgot to mention. I realized they break blood bonds using the power of demons, so technically infernalism. To use Vampire the Masquerade lore terms, they use infernalism, which is blood magic defined by demons. To break it, that's how they manage to even begin to fight their elders, because everyone's blood bound in Clan Zemitzi. What else did they do in that time? No, that was it. That's just how they do it. Yeah. Then basically they build while losing ground, the Zemitzi. I keep getting them confused just because they both begin with T. The Zemitzi then build something called the Cathedral of Flesh, and it is what it says on the tin. It is a cathedral made up of vampires and mortals, flesh crafted to the point that they become the architecture for a cathedral. This cathedral eventually, literally, grows legs, eats everyone inside it, and fucks off. I don't mean it literally grows legs, it metaphorically grows legs and fucks off after eating everyone inside it. There's also a Zemitzi Methuselah called Drakon, I call him. I pronounce it Drakon. It could be Dracoon, I guess. It's Dracon, so Drakon. And he's one of the three pillars that built Constantinople and kept the Eastern Roman Empire functioning. He falls in love with a Toreador and has a deep sexual rivalry for that Toreador's affections against a Ventru. But Constantinople falls due to the Fourth Crusade, and he fucks off. A bit more retcon coming up because he ends up carrying the embryo and then birthing which included his death, ironically, the eldest, who decided to come out of torpor in the most dramatic way possible, I guess. The eldest then takes one of the best vampires and one of the best Zemitzi vampires called Sasha, who is one of the best Sabbat priests and players that you'll ever meet, and assaults them to impregnate her with the child of Draken, and we don't know what happened from that point on. The eldest then disappears and turns up in the Gehenna book as one of the BBEGs that is going to infect all of reality by flesh crafting itself literally into the framework of the universe. Clan Zemitzi gets top bill for their lore. It's all retconned at certain points, but, the headcanon can be what you want it to be. It's a bunch of vampires effectively telling different stories in their clan books. So they're going straight to the top. There's other crazy things that I'm only just remembering. Their vicissitude might be a disease that lets the eldest, the Zemidzi antediluvian, look through the eyes of any of its children, and if it dies, it can just explode out of any of them, as I've proven with Draken. It lives in the sewers of New York, and it's just this giant flesh monster. If you ever saw the image of of all the fat that was in the London sewer, imagine that, but way more disgusting and throughout the entire sewer system. Like I say, it becomes the BBEG. It also, vicissitude is also described as being an alien infection from the Feywilds, I think. They've got a whole subsect of Clan Zemidzi called Old Clan Zemidzi who believe in the whole, if we use vicissitude, the eldest will find us, and it might also be an alien disease. So instead, we're just going to use magic demon powers, as if that's somehow better. Hey, let me sell my soul to hell. Yeah, that's clearly better. So they're going straight to the top. And then, second to last, we have Clan Ventru, the Clan of Kings. So they had an antediluvian called Ventru, and he was so great that Cain himself said, when I leave, ignore the fact that I have direct descendants who have been managing things for a while. You will be in charge of all vampire kind. I give you this task. Bye. And he leaves. The flood comes, the second city happens, Ventru sets it all up, and he's like, oh, the shame. We are burdened with glorious purpose and leadership. We must be the shepherds for vampires. Hakim would have been better, in my opinion. But he then gets murdered by either Bruja or by other vampires, or he doesn't get murdered. But either way, he fucks off out the narrative, and the oldest lore points to him definitely being dead. Clan Ventru then just basically becomes the foundational works of every major incident and empire that ever existed in the world. The Roman Empire, set up by Clan Ventru. Constantinople and the Eastern Roman Empire, kept together, kind of, by Clan Ventru. Iraq and Persia and all of its conquered kingdoms, Clan Ventru. The British Empire, Clan Ventru. America, Clan Ventru. All Clan Ventru. It's all Clan Ventru. They did it all. They are the head of state. They're not the Pope, but they are the POTUS, effectively. They only like to turn, originally in the Dark Ages, nobility, gentry, kings and queens even, if they were good enough. You know? But in terms of lore, that really is it. They had an antediluvian. They don't know what happened to him. Some say he died. Some say he's alive. And then basically all mortal achievements that ever happened, there's a Ventru there saying, I did that. Not much to go on for them, sadly, with their lore. And unlike the Clan Ventru is solely propped up by the fact that it has one of the most well-known Methuselahs out there called Mithras. So Mithras is a Persian who was a warlord king in Persia. I guess that's Iraq now. Don't question me. I don't know geography. It was Persia at the time, and he was the king of it. And he killed a bunch of vampires and a bunch of rebels. So a Methuselah turns up and he says, you're really good at leading. You're really good at conquering. Do you want to be a vampire? By the way, if you say no, I'm going to just kill you. So he says yes. And then he realizes he's playing kid games. So he goes to Rome. And he enjoys Rome for a bit because he enjoys being able to conquer things and he enjoys being a political beast. In Rome, the vote of the Senate doesn't matter. It's all a proxy for vampires. Shocker. However, a Clan Ventru vote is worth 3 votes. All other clans, if they're lucky to be on the Senate, their vote is worth 1 vote. And in order to get on the Senate, you have to convince enough of the Ventru to sponsor you in. And unlike actual Rome, you don't get to leave unless you get killed. You're not on term, you're just there until you die. Mithras says nuts to this, and he goes to, I guess at the time, Britannia. And he goes, wow, there's vampires here. And he kills them all. He kills them all with his Roman legions. He doesn't care. He says the gangrel can stay in Wales, the Toreador that are already here can stay up in Scotland. Everyone else get the fuck out of my country. Then he goes to sleep in London, or Londinium. Then he wakes up and the Saxons have came over. Was it the Saxons? Or was it the Normans? Somebody came over and he got really annoyed, but he went, you know what, it's fine. I can kick all their asses. So he sets up the barons, the barony of Avalon, I believe it's called, or the barons of Avalon. Basically, he blood bonds all the top leaders into serving him, and if anyone attacks him, well, then everyone else has to attack them because it upsets the power structure. Why everyone doesn't just attack him? Well, because, well, common sense, doesn't really exist. From there, he then goes back to sleep. Then the Normans come over, and he goes, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm sick of this. And then he kills them all again. Then he rules. Then he goes in and out of sleep. Round about World War II, he gets hit by a bomb directly to the face. He survives in torpor, in his magical coma, until the modern day. We'll just say the modern day. I believe it's about 2012 or something crazy. It might be 2016. It's somewhere within 2012 to 2020, I believe. I'd need to reread the Fall of London book. But anyway, he wakes up. Werewolves start losing their shit. They all run. They find a really weak Mithras, and he absolutely decimates the werewolf pack. However, he takes a hit because he's just woke up. He's very weak. He's very hungry, and he's just wrecked the shit out of some werewolves. So, he's taken a beating. So some opportune vampire called Monty, who's a Banu Hakim Sabbat member. Can't remember if he knows he's part of the Sabbat or not, but he's part of it regardless. Drinks him dry, diablerizes him, and then they have a tug of war, which is barely a tug of war from the side of Mithras, over Monty's body. Obviously, Mithras will win. It's just a matter of time, and it's up to the player in the campaign of the Fall of London to decide how they're going to handle all of that. But that is basically the Clan Ventru lore. It's basically just the lore of the world and one dude. So I'm going to put them at the head of Ancilla. And then you have the Thin Bloods. They're not a clan either. So they go to the back of Fledgling. And there you go. That is my tier list for Vampire the Masquerade clans based on their lore. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, Phil would tell me to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. I find it cringe, but I've said it, so there you go. If my HR manager is still incapacitated, I might continue this with another crazy video because I have things to say about the clan disciplines, especially their V5 counterparts. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.